Hi, Steve Mera here and welcome to episode 4 of Project Enigma. In this particular episode we're going to be looking into the subject of the darker side of ufology, which kind of means UFOs attack. Yes, interesting cases from all around the world, which are often swept under the carpet and often kept out of the public domain, maybe for good reason. We're going to be delving into some of the most profound incidents that have ever been reported, as well as a closer examination of the Colares UFO incidents from 1977 and 1978, and questioning why do some researchers still believe that this is a psy-ops from 1977 onwards of technology owned by us humans and going about these strange agendas. Very odd. I hope you enjoy this episode. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to be alerted to when our next video is out. Thank you very much. On March the 4th, 1946, near the small town of Acari in Brazil, Joe Pertez Falou was on his way home from fishing when he was taken over by a strange feeling of terror. He noticed that everything had suddenly fallen silent and felt as if he was being pursued. He occasionally caught sight of a dark object above him, and as he quickened his pace, he realized he was not alone. He reached home and was shocked to see a large dark mass hovering above the ground that suddenly shot a beam of light at him. It came through the window into his room. Waking in severe pain, he ran out the house in panic. He was found running through the streets, screaming out in pain. An ambulance rushed him to the hospital. Dr. Roses stated he had died from cardiac arrest and burns. He was referred to as the melting man. In regard to such physical injuries and worse, in April of 1977, 4 fishermen from Maranhão in Brazil are thought to have been attacked by some form of UAP during the night while sleeping. The incident took place on a small island known as Crab Island. While sleeping on their boat, 3 out of the 4 men were seemingly attacked. None of them were in the same place when they went to sleep. None of them had woken up with the tide as they usually do. 3 of the fishermen had been severely burned and 1 had perished. Jose had died, Apolinario and Firmino were badly burned, yet no clothing was even singed. The boat was unaffected and there had been no storms. A clear, calm night. No one could recall what had happened, not even under hypnosis. Police did do a thorough investigation. No one could remember what had happened to them apart from a bright beam of light prior to passing out. Jose's death certificate could only conclude a cerebrovascular accident caused by high blood pressure as a consequence of emotional shock. After the incident had hit the local newspapers, a number of people came forward claiming that they had witnessed strange lights in the sky that night. Other fishermen claimed they had witnessed strange glowing crafts over Crab Island as well. Over the years, there has been continued sightings of UAP throughout the local area of Crab Island. Another fisherman by the name of Jose Begay came forward claiming that he was abducted by strange beings after a large object flew and hovered over his boat. Now, just 746 miles from Crab Island lies another mysterious location, being Colares Island, which came under attack by UAP starting around the same time as Crab Island incident. The military became involved by late October 1977 and were known as COMAR. COMAR, the Regional Air Command, interviewed around 3,400 witnesses over a 4-month period. No one engaged or opened fire on these crafts. No one intervened. After they had obtained hundreds of photographs and hundreds of hours of film, they simply just left. After the Brazilian government instructed the full release of Operation Saucer via their Freedom of Information Act, only around 200 photographs were released out of about 600, and all video film and further documents remain classified. Some researchers continue to state that the Colares incident from 1977 to 78 was a psy-ops carried out by secret government establishments utilising advanced technologies. Most crafts came from the sea and there were over 500 variants in shape, size and colour. The phenomenon pursued vehicles firing beams of light down at them in what could only be described as a high-speed pursuit. The residents set up large bonfires on the beach to ward away the crafts. Hundreds of residents left the island in fear. All hell had broken loose. Now the four bottom photographs you can see here are of the same craft as it traversed through the sky and seemed to change shape. Many crafts were seen rising from the ocean as well as entering it. After the first two people had died through their attack, the mayor was pressured into contacting Komar. Some of the crafts seemed to change their entire shape, size and colour. Some were huge in size, while others were small. This image is a reconstruction of what was seen at Marisville Bay. These incidents had been described as a coordinated invasion. Some crafts were photographed as they were seen diving into the ocean. Most photographs were taken by military officers. Some crafts were seen to flip from a vertical position to a horizontal one. Komar were present from September to December of 1977, even though incidents continued. These photographs are from the original scans taken by Komar. This object flips 90 degrees prior to firing a beam of light down to the ground in an attempt to hit people. Over 1,200 people were struck by the beams of light. They were described as bright white in colour, silent and around 25 centimetres in diameter, capable of passing through solid matter to reach their victims, many of whom were sleeping at the time. They described these night attacks as suddenly waking in tremendous pain and not being able to move. They were completely paralysed and could only watch as the beam of light came through the wall or ceiling and descended towards their arms or chest area, stopping just a few inches away when a smaller beam of light came out from the bottom of it and made contact on their skin. A tremendous pain and the feeling of a sucking pressure was felt. The official US government report seriously contradicts the original hospital reports. The US government report states that around 5% of victims suffered from anemia after their encounter, when in fact it was around 85%. A.J. Girard, a researcher from Brazil, had this to say.
Over 1,000 people were attacked during a certain period of time. There were lots of injuries made by this object that would come from the sky and emit a beam of light towards people's body, making them faint and become anemic.
Reported deaths were listed as just one. However, the original hospital reports state that 4 had perished. Due to the phenomena's seemingly evasion to iron within our bodies, some researchers have gone as far to state these villagers were being prepped for further contact. Beams of light hit the tops of the legs, the arms, the shoulders and the chest areas of their victims. Slight radiation burns surrounded 2 punctures that looked to be like injection marks. Burn marks darkened within 10 minutes of the incident. Victims reported extreme pain. Paralysis took place for around 10 to 15 seconds. Victims could not scream out, only watch in fear as the beams of light passed through the walls or ceilings of their homes, hitting them. 2 people who had died from these attacks were found to have accelerated rigor mortis, and their death certificates listed the conclusion as unknown. Just like one of the victims from the Crab Island incident, these victims did not suffer from blood loss, only anemia and low red blood cells. The hospital doctor was instructed by the military not to disclose details about the attacks or that some victims had died, and to downplay the incidents, calling them incidents of hysteria. Victims were suffering from being lethargic after their attacks. Now, Dr. Waleed Carvalho stated it was a beam of light with a beam of light in it. The inner part was responsible for the burns and punctures. A strange smell would fill the air. The beam of light affected the human nervous system. The doctor herself had her own experience after stopping her car one night on the way home because of a woman she saw who was unconscious on the ground. She noticed an object suddenly fly over her around 100 feet in altitude and flooded her in light, which caused temporary paralysis. The incidents gradually stopped around March 1978, and a number of different newspapers did report on the incidents. Many people claim that Komar were only there to interview witnesses and gather as much photography and film as they could, suppress incidents and never to engage the phenomena with any force. They simply sat back and let it happen. Now, a whistleblower steps forward from Komar in 1997. The leading officer of the military team deployed to Colares, Captain Hollander, reached out to a Brazilian UFO publication, and a meeting was set up where he was interviewed. He confirmed that the phenomenon was not of earthly origin. Hollander made many drawings of the huge variation in the craft he witnessed. Some were very big and deployed smaller crafts. He claimed that his team witnessed crafts land and could see small beings that were not human looking. Some of these incidents were apparently filmed. On one occasion he witnessed 2 3-foot beings, one of which looked to be carrying some type of pistol. One very large craft tipped on its side and landed near a group of trees. A door was seen to open where they could clearly see 2 strange looking beings. Now, after Captain Hollander had completed his first interview with researchers and journalists of the Brazilian UFO magazine, it was publicised. Hollander had made plans for further, more in-depth interviews to take place, an appointment he was never to keep. He was sadly discovered to have allegedly hanged himself with a tie around his bed frame while sitting on the floor. Now, many have found this to be highly suspicious. So, what of those that experienced these strange crafts and were hit by the beam of light? Some have actually spoken out about their harrowing encounter.
And these lights cause panic, cause terror, fear. And the factors that caused the most fear were precisely the fact that it did not produce any noise. It didn't produce any sound. On top of the roof, like a lamp. Right on my thigh. Then inside the light tunnel, something like a needle came down. Like a serum needle, a metallic object. It came down slowly, came and came. When it got close to me, I was able to free myself and scream. A clarity, a focus, like a flashlight. The beam came down through the roof, and when it hit him, he fainted. I was a nursing assistant when it attacked. They ran to the hospital, almost dead. The person became numb. When they realized they were already injured, they were stings, like pinpricks. When I saw that when I was sleeping, I saw that thing. That thing is just starting to come towards me. On this side of the neck, it warmed me up, like when we grab an electric wire and we receive an electric shock, and then it gave me these 3 sucks. And very quickly, you know, I started to move on the hammock asking for help. I started to sleep below the counter from then on. It was already dawn. I kept my arm like that and closed my eyes. Then I heard that weird noise and I wanted to open my eyes, but I couldn't. Then I saw it. The light came down and gripped me right here. It turned purple with that puncture. It was numb. I wanted to move, but I couldn't. When that let go of me, I turned from side to side. And she screamed, "Daddy, Mummy is dying." Then he was startled and asked me what had happened. And I said, "I don't know, something grabbed my arm here, a light." He said, "Oh, it's the Chupa Chupa." I compared it to a thing of this size. I wanted to open my eyes wide, but I couldn't. But I saw it like a can of milk. The object was behind the trees, right, Mum? Like coloured lights. And the beam that came down above the chestnut tree, it came down right on me. It was round with lights around it. That impact on my chest and I fell. When I already fell, I woke up with my mother trying to pick me up. It was like a yellowish light, right, Mum? There we were. Did you smell anything? Yes, like ether. Where was the smell coming from? From this light beam. This smell appeared. No, it was this side here. And then the smell came at the moment that I felt an impact here on my chest. I became weak. I fell. Then I lost consciousness and woke up in the hospital. Did you feel any pain? I felt a burning sensation. I felt like that my body was weak. Weakness all over my body. I felt a lot of weakness and headaches. She needed a lot of time to recover.
Further attacks took place in 2002 in the villages of the Mirzapur district, 440 miles southeast of New Delhi in India. Many were attacked in the night by these strange crafts, leaving puncture wounds and causing paralysis. Some apparently had died from unexplained injuries. Police authorities were called to the scene in an attempt to quell the growing panic. Now, within days, the government and the newspapers, including the Indian Times, attempted to cover up the incident. Their conclusion was that people had simply been attacked by a swarm of insects. Unusual smells and phantasmia, mysterious odours have been reported many times in association with paranormal incidents, demonic encounters, UFOs, as well as strange non-human entities. Odours such as sulphur or ether have been reported. Ether can be used, of course, as a form of anaesthetic. Such strange odours in association with various phenomena have been well documented, such as the witchcraft trials of 1692, the Flatwoods UFO incident of 1952, the Virginia UFO incident of 1966, the Falcon Lake UFO incident of 1967, the Smurl family haunting in 1975, and of course the incidents of Colares 1977 and 78, as well as many, many more. In 1973, near the small Brazilian town of Quicada, Luis Barroso Fernandez was in his cart travelling home when he heard a strange buzzing sound and witnessed a dish-shaped craft land around 30 yards away from him. He could clearly see two small beings. Now, one of these beings looked to be carrying some type of flashlight. Lewis claims that the being zapped him and his donkey in the face, apparently leaving them both paralysed on the floor. He later woke with burn marks on his face and in pain. A local hospital doctor recorded all the information in the medical records and prescribed an anti-allergic drug, a tranquilizer, and absolute rest. But Fernandez continued to feel ill, with severe pain throughout his body, burning eyes, and the left side of his body was still very red. A few days after the encounter, his hair turned grey, and he started to have lapses of memory. Lewis became worse, and he began to regress mentally until he was like a child. He was taken to a psychiatric hospital in Fortaleza, where he was examined by 16 doctors, all of which failed to make an accurate diagnosis. Dr. Magalhaes verified his worsening condition and mental capacity. Lewis regressed back to the mind of a child. Before his death in April 1993, he could only mutter 3 words: mum, give, and fear. He had to wear diapers and could not even feed himself. The illnesses that followed after his encounter are bizarre to say the least, and went undiagnosed by doctors, despite experts from Portugal, Italy and Spain, to name a few. He would ultimately pass away in 1993. His condition and the reasons for it still remain unexplained. At the time of his death, his brain had almost completely returned to that of a young child. The US government have studied the effects of UAP attacks since 1969, which were re-evaluated by ORSAP between 2007 and 2012 by Dr. Kit Green, including the effects of Havana syndrome introduced by microwave and high-energy weapons in 1970. However, UAP effects predate Havana syndrome by decades. UAP have apparently been documented to have caused serious injuries even when cloaked, invisible to the naked eye. Localized effects from UAP often result in EM radiation on the human body, causing a multitude of ailments. UAP experiences have resulted in 1 in 7 witnesses dying within 7 years of their encounter, according to documentation. There are government documents that reference cloaked entities spanning the globe over 30 years, and that UAP-associated telepathic communications were first documented in 1969. However, such communications can now be artificially induced. Thermal distress and voices in your head can be produced through thermoelastic expansion of the intracranial spaces via specialized technology. In recent studies, it has been discovered that people who have had UAP experiences tend to seek out partners who also have had such UAP experiences, suggesting the theory of a UFO gene, which may be being genetically passed on to their children. Though UAP attacks continue to get little publicity and are often swept under the carpet, such incidents regularly consist of forms of paralysis, severe sickness, burns and radiation poisoning, brain damage, physical motor systems affected, blindness, retinal damage, disorientation, confusion, cognitive limitation, loss of hearing, nausea, menstrual cycle disruption, loss of memory, physiological effects such as bad dreams and night terrors, insomnia, affected coordination, electrical hypersensitivity, bouts of uncontrollable fear, dermal and subdermal markings, mysterious wounds, fatigue, cancer induction or acceleration, skin rashes, bouts of extrasensory perception, also resulting in the overconnection of neurons between the head of the chordae and the putamen, the area of the brain that controls perception. Such an effect could be a byproduct of forced perception from the phenomenon. Pentagon whistleblowers continue to claim that people have been killed or severely injured by NHI who have acted with malevolence. Should serious consideration and caution be carried out when actively investigating this phenomenon in isolated locations? For sure. After all, just because you don't see them doesn't mean they're not there. So always express caution. I'd like to thank you for watching this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe and hit that notification icon to be alerted for when our next video is up. Thank you very much.